All right, Coach Rich here again. Welcome back to day 2 of the Parenting Breakthrough Quickstart course. So, yesterday we explored kind of the emotional landscape of your family, and we started looking at patterns and trying to see where things were coming from and what was behind the chaos, right? What's behind the surface emotion and manifestation we see. So today we're going to be talking about, taking it a little deeper when it comes to emotional stuff. And, it's going to be a little personal. But here's a really important truth. To create peace in your home, it's not just about changing your kids' behavior. It's about transforming what happens inside you as a parent. So we're going to talk about clearing some emotional blocks. And, those feelings of guilt, shame, self-doubt that creep into your mind and influence the way you show up for your kid. You're not alone here. Every parent feels these emotions at some point. But if we don't address them, then we can end up creating a barrier to the connection and the calm that we're working so hard to build and that we all want. If you didn't want that, you wouldn't be here, right? So how can unresolved emotions influence parenting decisions? Let's start with this. Have you ever felt like you're not doing enough as a parent? And maybe you think, if I were better, my kid wouldn't struggle so much. Or it's my fault they're having this meltdown. Or this meltdown is a reflection on me as a parent. That's guilt. And guilt loves to show up uninvited. It whispers stuff like, you should have done more, you're failing. Or maybe it's shame. Shame doesn't just say, you made a mistake. It says you are the mistake. So it convinces you that you're not good enough no matter how much you love your kid and how hard you try. So these emotions don't just sit in the background. They kind of shape the way we parent. They affect the lens that's over our eyes. So guilt might just make you give in to demands during a meltdown, even when you know it's not the right thing to do. Like the kid would be better off if you didn't give in, right? But shame might stop you from asking for help because you think, what are people going to think of me? So if we're not careful, these emotions can lead to reactive parenting and decisions driven by fear instead of confidence. And that's when the chaos continues to spiral. And that's also when we tend to do the kinds of things we regret as parents. We've all had that moment where we're like standing in the bathroom, look with our hands over our eyes, like, I can't believe what I just said, or I can't believe what I just did, right? And quick tip, in that moment, the phrase I like to say to myself is, I'm a good parent having a bad moment, or I'm a good parent having a rough moment. And when you do something you regret with your kids, say that to yourself, give yourself some time to chill, and then, very importantly, go reconnect with your child and repair it and say, I am so sorry that I reacted the way I did to that situation, and I'm going to try and be better in the future. And you're letting them know that, you're not perfect and that you're willing to share that. That's vulnerability, and that creates connection. And you're modeling for them what a good human should do when they make a mistake, is own up to it and make a commitment to not do it again, or to at least try not to do it again. So, why are self-regulation tools and techniques the foundation for peaceful parenting? There's good news here. Guilt and shame don't have to run the show. And think about it. When your kid is having a meltdown, what's the first thing they need? It's not punishment or fixing. They need you. They need you calm, steady, and grounded. The comedian Pete Holmes loves to say, kids don't want a Ferrari, they want a Subaru, right? They want you reliable and easy and simple to understand. When you have really inconsistent reactions to your kid about anything, they get confused, and that makes them feel less safe. So in order to be able to be consistent and to be grounded and calm and steady, we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, because you can't pour from an empty cup. If your emotions are swirling, it's impossible to be calm, and it's impossible to be a leader, right? And your kid needs a leader, especially when they're having a tough moment emotionally. So self-regulation, the ability to manage your emotions, is the foundation of peaceful parenting. And here's why that matters. When you stay calm, you create emotional safety for your kid. They sense that you're in control, even when they're not, and that gives them the space to start regulating themselves. But to get there, we have to clear out the emotional clutter. So the guilt, the shame, the self-doubt, because these feelings aren't just weighing you down, they're blocking the connection your kid needs to thrive. So here's the action to take here. We want to reframe the guilt and shame. Write down one guilt or shame-based belief that you have about parenting. So maybe it's, I should have noticed my child's struggles sooner, or I'm not patient enough, or I'm failing my child. And just be honest, it's totally judgment-free. And ask yourself, is this belief helping me, or is it holding me back? It's probably holding you back, just so you know. But we'll see. So now we're going to reframe that belief and take what you've written and turn it into something empowering. So if your belief is, I should have noticed my kid's struggle sooner, you can reframe it as, I'm learning to understand my child better every day, and I'm doing the best I can with what I know. All right? I'm using the tools I was given, and I'm trying to get some new ones. So if your belief is, I'm not patient enough, you can reframe it as, patience is a skill I'm building, and every moment is a chance to practice. So the goal here isn't to ignore or deny what you're feeling. It's just to change the story you're telling yourself. So guilt says you're not enough, and reframing that says you're growing, and you've always been enough, and you just want to be more. So, take a few minutes to do this in the workbook. So let's walk through that right here. So here is the workbook, day 2, clearing emotional blocks. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do some emotional excavation. And truth be told, you'd best set aside about an hour for this. You could probably set aside an hour and a half for this. But, whatever amount of time you set aside, just, shut off your phone. Don't even put it on Do Not Disturb. Just shut it off, put it in a different room. And let people know, I need 20 minutes for this or 30 minutes for this. So step 1 is, just some exploration of your emotions, your current belief, and then where did that belief come from? Some belief about your parenting that you feel is probably holding you back. And then we want to transform that belief. So write that belief down, and then what's a way that we can reframe this as either an advantage or something positive, right? Like the example I just gave a little while ago there. Evidence supporting the reframe belief. So what can we find in the world that reframes, going from I'm a bad parent to I'm a good parent and I'm trying to get better at it, and I'm trying to acquire the tools to get better at it. So, one piece of evidence is that you have this course, right? You're going through this. You actually want to be better. So that's one reason right there. Another one is you could say, I go out of my way to spend 30 minutes a day playing baseball with my son because I know he loves it, right? And I've gotten better at apologizing to my child when I do something I feel I was out of line with, right? So those are some examples, but come up with your own. So this is a big one here, breaking down an emotional barrier. This is kind of a more detailed version of what we just did here. But here we're trying to grab onto a specific emotion and actually unpack it in multiple ways to take the power out of it and dissolve it. So, avoid drugs and alcohol when you're doing this. It's going to help you see things more clearly. So, if possible, just abstain for 24 hours before going through this process. I noticed a funny thing, just a little sidebar here. Like when I started drinking a lot less and ultimately stopped drinking completely, alcohol, my parenting got a lot better. And so did a lot of other things. So be in a distraction-free environment and set aside at least 60 minutes. You can do this as a speed clearing, but is not nearly as effective. It's detailing your car versus just spraying it down. Most of the dirt will still be there if you don't get serious and do it right. So, you can speed through this in like 15 minutes, but the more time you can set aside, the deeper you can go. So pick one emotion from the list up above here, and that's all these. Let's walk through these really quick. You have anger and frustration, resentment, fear, anxiety, self-doubt, judgment, guilt, shame, depression. So pick one that you're dealing with. And read through this section really quick. If you haven't dug into the book yet and you're doing this module, it'd be a good idea to read this kind of area of the book from page 20 to page 30 or so, right? So identify the cause of the emotion. You try and find a specific event, situation, or interaction that triggered the emotion. It could be recent. It could be 20 years ago. So the old ones are the hardest ones to deal with, but also the most valuable ones to break up. So think about the root cause, and it's going to help you separate the feeling from the person or the situation, and it's going to allow you to understand that the source of distress is not necessarily your kid or your partner, but it might be the context or the past experiences. Rate the severity of the emotion. Is it a 10? Being extremely intense? Those are the kinds of things we should be working on in this. So I'm hoping you're in the 8, 9, 10 range. Tackle the big ones first. We just want to quantify it just to see the magnitude. And it's going to be useful later when we think, okay, we've done the exercise. Now, what number is it? Define your desired outcome. So what's the ideal outcome in response to the situation? Like, what would you like to have had happen instead of what actually happened? And describe that outcome in detail. It's just going to help clarify your needs, your expectations. It's going to offer insight into how your wishes differ from reality. So understanding this gap can actually help guide future actions and communications, and it's going to set the groundwork for improved interactions with your child. Then list 10 plus benefits of the cause of this emotion. So you're trying to look for positives or hidden benefits in the situation that caused your emotion, and just identify some ways this experience may have supported your personal growth, resilience, or understanding as a parent. It's going to help you to reframe challenges as opportunities. And I think that's a practice of lots of very successful people. So then we're going to rate the intensity. Sorry, we did that already. 10 plus benefits. Oh, I got a double page in there. Just caught an edit I need to make. So this might be an old copy, actually. List 10 plus drawbacks of your desired outcome, right? So the thing you wanted to see happen, what are some negative things that could have happened out of that? Think through the potential challenges that might have arisen afterwards. And it's a great way to put some realism into your perspective, because everything that happens, we have no idea what it could cause next. And just acknowledge your role in the emotion. Ask yourself what you did consciously or unconsciously that might have influenced the outcome. And this step promotes self-accountability, which is going to empower you to recognize your influence over your emotions and experiences. Step 7 is to develop 10 steps, plans, or contingencies to reduce future occurrence of this emotion. So this is a little bit of like fear setting, right? Like, all right, this thing I'm worried is going to happen. Like, let's say we're dealing with fear. I'm worried this thing is going to happen. What are some things I can do to prevent that thing from happening? And, maybe it's like extreme example, but like, I'm afraid of being evicted from my apartment, right? And then, but I think, well, what am I actually really afraid of? I'm really afraid of being homeless. All right, so what are some ways I could actually prevent being homeless? Well, I could sleep on Ron's couch, and I could sleep, Sean would probably take me for a few days, and then I could get an Airbnb, or, there's lots of solutions, right? So that's a really helpful thing to do, is just make contingencies that are going to reduce the potential for a future occurrence. And then just reflect on the balance in your perception. Like, ask yourself if you can see how you may have contributed to the situation and how your perception has influenced your emotional experience, and just consider whether this perception might need to be more balanced. So by doing this, you gain insight into how your thoughts shape your emotions and reactions. And this step actually encourages a balanced view, and it's going to reduce the emotional charge around situations and helping you respond more objectively. So, identify the lessons in here, express gratitude for the emotion, and just consider what valuable lessons this experience has taught you. And then acknowledge these insights, express gratitude for the knowledge gained, even if the experience was challenging. And then plan for personal growth. Ask yourself how you can use this experience to grow as a parent, and then take immediate action based on the reflection. What's one thing you're going to do right now to actually move yourself in the right direction on what's bothering you. Okay, so that's the process. It's a lot. It's worth it. So back to this worksheet. I just want you to write a compassionate letter to yourself as a parent. Say as many nice things about yourself as a parent as you can on this space here. All right, so that's the end of day 2. That was the heaviest work day, probably. I don't think any of them are as heavy as that one. But then again, you can do the clearing over and over again if you want to, and it's good to. Do it for lots of different things as you peel back the layers. Do it whenever you can find 30 minutes or 60 minutes. Anyways, that's day 2, and I'll see you for day 3.